I'm Linda, and my life was supposed to be a quiet, suburban dream, until one reckless moment at the community pool shattered everything I thought I knew about myself. Picture me, dripping wet, wrapped in nothing but a flimsy towel, my heart racing as I stand too close to a line I swore I'd never cross. The air crackles with tension, the scent of chlorine mixing with forbidden temptation, and every nerve in my body screams to step back before it's too late. But what happens when a single stolen second ignites a fire I can't put out, threatening to burn down the life I've built with my husband? Stick around, because what I did next will leave you speechless. Picture this. I'm standing at the edge of my kitchen counter, the morning sun slicing through the blinds in sharp golden streaks, casting shadows over a half-empty coffee mug I've been nursing for way too long. My name's Linda, and at 29, I'm piecing together a life in a quiet suburban town, just a stone's throw from a bustling mid-sized city. It's not glamorous, but it's mine. Between juggling deadlines as a graphic designer and keeping our little household from falling into chaos, I'm always on the move. I try to stay active, squeezing in workouts whenever I can steal a moment. But my real escape? Swimming. Ever since I was a kid, the water's been my sanctuary, a place to wash away the stress and just breathe. I share this life with my husband, Mark. He's 32, a sales manager with a knack for closing deals, but not always for closing the gap between us. We've been together 6 years, married for 3 of them, and while I'd say we're solid, there's a quiet ache sometimes. His long hours at work leave me pacing our home alone more often than I'd like. I know he's supportive, always quick with a kind word when he's around, but I can't help missing the days when we'd steal every spare second just to be near each other. Now, it's more about stolen glances over hurried dinners, and I'm left wondering if we've let too much time slip through our fingers. Most days, I find my rhythm outside these 4 walls. A few times a week, I head to the local community pool, a place that's become as familiar as an old friend. It's nothing fancy, just faded blue tiles lining the edges, the constant hum of the filter system, and that sharp, lingering scent of chlorine that clings to your skin long after you've left. But it's comforting, a constant in a world that feels like it's always shifting under my feet. I've gotten to know the faces there, the regulars who nod as we pass each other on the deck. One of them is Ethan, the lifeguard. He's in his mid-20s, I'd guess, with tanned skin that speaks of endless hours under the sun and a confident air that's hard to miss. He's got this easy, friendly smile he tosses out to folks like me who show up week after week. I've noticed him over the past few months, not in any deep way, just noticed. There's a curiosity there, I'll admit, but nothing more than a passing thought as I dive into the cool water and let my worries drift away. Yesterday, though, I needed that pool more than ever. Work had been a beast, with a client tearing apart a design I'd poured hours into, and my head was a tangled mess of frustration. I decided to head down for a swim, craving the quiet of the water to smooth out the rough edges of the day. I packed my usual gym bag, the one I always take with me to the pool, filled with my essentials. So, there I was, pulling into the community pool parking lot in the late afternoon, the sun dipping low and casting long shadows over the asphalt. The lot was half empty, the after-school crowd of kids and parents already trickling out, leaving behind a quiet that felt almost sacred. I grabbed my gym bag from the passenger seat, the weight of it familiar in my hand, and made my way toward the entrance. The air was warm, carrying that faint tang of chlorine even before I stepped inside. A scent that always signaled relief was close at hand. At the front desk, I flashed my membership card and gave a quick wave to the receptionist, a middle-aged woman with a kind smile who barely looked up from her paperwork. Routine, as always. I pushed through to the women's locker room, the echo of my footsteps bouncing off the tiled walls. The space was mostly empty, just the faint drip of a leaky faucet somewhere in the corner. I found my usual spot, spun the dial on a locker, and changed into my navy blue one-piece swimsuit. It hugged my frame just right, a second skin I'd grown used to over countless laps. I folded my spare clothes, a soft worn t-shirt, black leggings, and my trusty sneakers, into the gym bag, stashing it inside before snapping a small padlock shut. Safe and sound, or so I thought. Out on the deck, the pool stretched before me like a glassy promise. I dipped a toe in first, testing the temperature, then slid into the water with a sigh. The coolness enveloped me, washing over my skin and pulling the tension from my shoulders. Each stroke I took cut through the surface with a rhythmic whoosh, the sound blending with my steady breaths. It was just me and the water, the rest of the world fading into a distant hum. The stress of that brutal workday, the client's harsh words still stinging in my mind, dissolved with every lap. I felt lighter, freer, like I could float forever. As I turned my head to breathe, I caught a glimpse of Ethan up on the lifeguard stand. He was perched there, whistle dangling loosely around his neck, his eyes scanning the pool with that sharp, focused gaze. His presence was steady, almost grounding, though I didn't linger on the thought. My mind was on the burn in my muscles, the satisfying ache of pushing myself just a little further. After about 45 minutes, my body signaled it was time to call it quits. I hauled myself out of the pool, water streaming off me as I stood on the edge, catching my breath. The air felt cooler now against my damp skin, and I reached for my towel on a nearby bench, wrapping it tightly around myself. My flip-flops slapped against the wet tile as I trudged back to the locker room, already thinking about what was next. Maybe I'd whip up something simple for dinner, a quick pasta dish if I had the energy. I wondered if Mark would be home on time for once, or if I'd need to eat alone again. But all those mundane thoughts vanished the moment I reached my locker. I spun the dial, popped the lock, and swung the door open, expecting to see my gym bag right where I left it. But it wasn't there. My heart did a little stutter in my chest as I stared into the empty space, like I could will my stuff to magically reappear. I double-checked the locker number. Yep, definitely mine. My clothes, my phone, my keys, all gone. A cold prickle of anxiety crept up my spine, mixing with the chill of the air conditioning in the locker room. I'm standing there, still damp from the pool, clutching my towel tighter around me as if it could shield me from this sinking feeling. My skin prickled with goosebumps, and I couldn't tell if it was from the cold or the growing panic. I started looking around, my eyes darting to every corner of the room. Maybe I'd misplaced it somehow, left it on a bench or near the showers. I checked nearby lockers, tugging at the handles, but they were all locked tight, not a single one budging. I even shuffled over to the lost and found bin by the entrance, rifling through a pile of forgotten goggles and stray flip-flops, but there was nothing of mine in there. My breath was coming a little faster now, my mind racing with worst-case scenarios. What if someone took it? What if I'm stuck here with no way to get home? I knew I couldn't just stand there frozen in indecision. I needed help, someone who could figure this out with me. So, with my towel wrapped as securely as I could manage, I decided to find a staff member from the pool. Stepping out of the locker room felt like walking onto a stage I hadn't rehearsed for. I was in just my swimsuit and that thin towel, feeling so exposed as a few lingering swimmers glanced my way. Their looks weren't judgmental, just curious, but it didn't stop the heat from creeping up my neck. I scanned the pool deck, my flip-flops slapping against the wet tile with every hesitant step, until I spotted Ethan near the edge, stacking some foam kickboards and organizing equipment. He was in his usual red lifeguard shorts and white tee, his movements casual but purposeful. My stomach twisted with embarrassment at the thought of approaching him like this, barely covered and clearly out of sorts, but there wasn't anyone else around to ask. I took a shaky breath, then called out to him, my voice wobbling more than I'd hoped. "Hey, Ethan. I've got a problem. My clothes, my whole bag, it's missing from the locker room. Can you help me look, or maybe call someone?" He turned immediately, his expression shifting from neutral to concerned in a heartbeat. "Whoa, that's not good." "Don't worry, Linda. We'll figure this out," he said, his tone steady and warm, like he dealt with crises like this every day. "Let's go check the locker room together. I'm sure it's just misplaced." His calm demeanor eased my nerves a fraction, though I still felt like a mess as I nodded and followed him back toward the tiled hallway. My arms were crossed tight over my towel, trying to hold on to some shred of dignity while we walked. The air felt even colder now, or maybe that was just the vulnerability sinking deeper into my bones. Back in the locker room, Ethan got to work right away, checking empty cubicles and storage areas I hadn't thought to look in. He moved with a quiet efficiency, opening doors and peering into corners while I hovered near the entrance, feeling utterly useless and out of place. To fill the awkward silence, I started rambling, my voice a little too high-pitched as I tried to distract myself from the situation. I've never had anything like this happen before, you know? I mean, I've been coming here for months, and I always lock my stuff up. I just don't get how it could vanish like that. He glanced over with a small, reassuring smile, murmuring something about how things turn up more often than not, but I barely registered his words. I was too caught up in my own head, my thoughts a jumbled mess of worry and self-consciousness. As we continued searching the locker room, a heavy silence settled between us, thick and almost tangible. I shifted my weight from one foot to the other, clutching the towel around me like a lifeline. Then, in a clumsy moment, my grip slipped just a fraction, the fabric dipping lower on my shoulder than I intended. My breath caught, and I fumbled to pull it back up, but before I could, Ethan was there, stepping closer with a quiet concern in his eyes. "Hey, let me help," he said softly, his voice barely above a whisper, as he reached out to adjust the towel for me. His fingers brushed against my bare shoulder, the touch so light it was almost nothing, and yet it sent a jolt through me, sharp and electric, like a current I couldn't ignore. I froze, my body locked in place, every nerve suddenly hyper-aware of his proximity. It was innocent, I knew that. Just a kind gesture, nothing more. But my heart was racing anyway, pounding so hard I was sure he could hear it. He stepped back almost immediately, his hands dropping to his sides, and looked at me with a gentle tilt of his head. "You okay, Linda?" he asked, his tone low, laced with a warmth that made my stomach twist in ways I didn't want to think about. I managed a nod, barely able to lift my gaze to meet his. My eyes darted to the floor instead, focusing on the cracked tiles beneath my feet, as if they held some kind of answer. Part of me screamed to step away, to put distance between us and end this moment before it spiraled into something I couldn't control. But another part, quieter yet insistent, kept me rooted there, caught in the strange pull of his presence. I swallowed hard, trying to steady myself, but the air felt heavier now, charged with something I couldn't name, or maybe didn't want to. We kept searching for my missing bag after that, moving through the locker room with a purpose that felt more like a pretense. My mind wasn't on the task anymore, and I could tell his wasn't either. I caught him glancing my way more than once, quick, fleeting looks that made my skin prickle all over again. And I wasn't innocent either. My own eyes betrayed me, lingering on the way his lifeguard shirt hugged his frame, the fabric stretched just enough to hint at the strength beneath. I shook my head, scolding myself silently. I'm married. Mark is at home, probably waiting for me, wondering why I'm taking so long. But the thought of Mark felt distant, almost unreal, in the quiet isolation of this empty space. The adrenaline of the situation, the vulnerability of standing here with next to nothing on, it all swirled together, clouding my judgment until I couldn't see straight. Ethan broke the tension for a moment, his voice cutting through my spiraling thoughts. There's one last place we haven't checked, a storage closet near the back. Let's take a look there. I nodded again, not trusting my voice, and followed him down a narrow hallway that led away from the main locker area. The space seemed to close in around us, the walls pressing tight as we walked side by side. Every sound felt amplified in the stillness, the faint drip of a leaky faucet echoing somewhere behind us, the low hum of the ventilation system overhead, even the rhythm of our breathing, which seemed to sink in a way that made my chest tighten. My mind was a storm of guilt and curiosity, a dangerous cocktail I couldn't shake off no matter how hard I tried. I knew I should say something, make some excuse to turn back, but my feet kept moving forward, drawn by a force I didn't fully understand. The hallway felt endless, each step heightening the awareness of how close we were, our shoulders nearly brushing as we navigated the cramped space. I could feel the heat radiating from him, or maybe that was just my imagination running wild. My towel felt flimsier than ever, a fragile barrier between me and a line I was terrified of crossing. I tried to focus on the task, on the here I am, standing in the dim light of the storage closet, the air thick with the scent of chlorine, and something unspoken, something dangerous. My heart's hammering in my chest, a wild rhythm I can't control, as Ethan fumbles through a box of lost items, his back to me for a moment. I should be focused on finding my bag, on getting out of here, but my mind is a traitor, replaying that fleeting touch on my shoulder from earlier, the warmth of his fingers lingering like a ghost on my skin. I'm clutching my towel so tight my knuckles are white, but it's not enough to anchor me. I'm slipping, and I know it. Then it happens. I don't think. I just act. My body moves before my brain can catch up, and I'm stepping closer, too close, the space between us shrinking to nothing. I lean forward, my breath catching, and press my lips to his. It's quick at first, almost hesitant, like I'm dipping a toe into forbidden waters, testing if I'll drown. But the second his lips meet mine, it's over. A dam bursts inside me, all the restraint I've clung to shattering in an instant. He responds without missing a beat, his hand sliding around my waist, pulling me in, and the kiss deepens into something hungry, something I can't pull back from. The heat of it consumes me, the rough scrape of his stubble against my cheek, the way my body molds to his like it's been waiting for this. My mind screams at me to stop, a shrill alarm blaring through the haze, but I'm lost, drowning in the rush, in the wrongness of it all. For a fleeting moment, the locker room, the pool, the whole world, it all fades away. There's just us, tangled in this stolen second, the thrill of crossing a line I swore I'd never touch. It's electric, a current that burns through every nerve, and I'm powerless against it. But reality slams back into me like a tidal wave, cold and brutal. I jerk away, my breath ragged, my hands shaking as I stumble back a step. My fingers fumble with the towel, pulling it tighter around me like it can hide what I've just done. I can't look at Ethan, but I feel his gaze on me, heavy with a mix of shock and something else, something that mirrors the chaos in my chest. His eyes search mine, and I catch a glimpse of that raw, unspoken want before I force myself to turn away. I've gotta go, I mumble, the words barely coherent, tripping over themselves as I back toward the door. My voice sounds foreign, small, like it belongs to someone else. Guilt floods through me, a sickening wave that churns in my stomach and claws at my throat. I'm married. To Mark. A man who trusts me with everything, who's probably at home right now, waiting for me to walk through the door with a tired smile and a story about my swim. And I've just thrown all of that away in a single reckless moment. How do I face him now? How do I look into his eyes and pretend everything's fine when I've got this secret burning a hole in my chest? My mind spins, picturing his face, the way he always knows when something's off with me. Will he see it? Will he sense the betrayal written all over me, like a stain I can't scrub out? I press a trembling hand to my forehead, trying to steady myself, but the weight of what I've done is crushing, suffocating. Ethan's voice cuts through the storm in my head, soft but urgent. Linda, wait. Are you okay? We can talk about this. I can hear the concern there, maybe even an apology, but I can't handle it. I shake my head, cutting him off before he can say more. No, I need to figure this out on my own. Please, just don't. My words are sharp, jagged, a desperate attempt to build a wall between us before I crumble completely. He hesitates, then nods, stepping back to give me space. I stumble out of the storage closet, my mind a chaotic mess, barely registering the cold tile under my feet as I make my way back through the locker room. My heart's still pounding, each beat a reminder of the line I've crossed, a line I can't uncross. I don't even remember how I managed to leave the pool area, but somehow I'm outside, the evening air hitting my damp skin like a slap. Ethan had found an oversized staff shirt in one of the storage bins, and I'm wearing it now. The fabric hanging off my frame like a tent, doing little to cover the shame I feel inside. My swimsuit is still wet underneath, clinging uncomfortably as I slide into my car. Barefoot, my flip-flops forgotten somewhere in the haze of what just happened. I grip the steering wheel with trembling hands, staring straight ahead, but I'm not seeing the road. I'm seeing that moment, replaying it over and over. The heat of his breath, the way my resolve melted under the weight of forbidden desire. Shame burns in my chest, hot and suffocating, but there's something else there too. A lingering thrill I don't want to acknowledge. A whisper of excitement that makes me sick to my stomach. I wonder about Ethan, about the look in his eyes when I pulled away. Was there regret there? Or just confusion? Does he feel as torn as I do? Or was it just a fleeting moment for him, something to shrug off by tomorrow? I don't know, and the not knowing gnaws at me as I start the engine and pull out of the parking lot. The hum of the car, the only sound in the heavy silence. The drive home feels endless. Every stoplight a chance for my thoughts to spiral deeper. I keep picturing his face, the way his gaze held mine for that split second before I turned away, and I hate myself for how much I'm still drawn to that memory. I'm a mess of emotions, regret so thick it chokes me, guilt that weighs on my shoulders like a physical burden, and that unwanted spark that refuses to die out. By the time I pull into my driveway, the sun has dipped below the horizon, leaving the world in a dim, gray twilight that matches the storm inside me. I sit there for a moment, engine off, just breathing, trying to pull myself together before I face what's waiting inside. My husband, Mark. My husband. The man who's trusted me with his heart for years, who doesn't deserve the betrayal I'm carrying like a hidden wound. I push open the front door, the familiar creak of the hinges sounding louder than ever in the quiet of our home. Mark's already there, sprawled on the couch with a beer in hand, the TV flickering with some sports highlight reel he's only half watching. He looks up as I step inside, his face breaking into that easy, tired smile that usually warms me from the inside out. Tonight, though, it cuts like a knife. "Hey, babe, how was your swim?" he asks, his voice casual, oblivious to the war raging in my head. I force a smile, my lips tight and unnatural, and mumble something about it being fine. Just fine, but I forgot my bag at the pool. My voice is strained, too high, and I pray he doesn't notice. He doesn't. He just nods, takes a sip of his beer, and turns his attention back to his phone, scrolling through whatever's caught his eye. I stand there for a second, rooted to the spot, watching him, feeling the weight of my lies settle into my bones like lead. It's a physical ache, this deception, a heaviness that presses down on my chest until I can hardly breathe. I mutter an excuse about needing to shower and shuffle down the hallway, desperate to escape before the cracks in my facade start to show. In the bathroom, I strip off the oversized shirt and my damp swimsuit, letting them fall to the floor in a heap. I step under the shower head, cranking the water as hot as I can stand, and let it pour over me. The steam rises, clouding the glass, and I stand there, motionless, hoping that don't forget to subscribe, like, and comment if you enjoyed this story. This will help us create more engaging stories for you.